Is this thing on? Hello? Hello? Whatever. What's up, everyone? I'm Alex Johnson. Welcome to the first episode of The Little Johnson Show, part of the Yards Per Fantasy Network. Before we get into today's guest, I want to remind you, get on Underdog Fantasy, download their app, underdogfantasy.com, draft with me, draft against me, use promo code YARDSPER, and you get free $25 bonus credits right into your account. The format of the show is a little different, but I think you'll like it. I'm really excited about my first guest, Spencer Werner from yardsperfantasy.com. He's one of our newest writers this year in 2021. Been with us since the beginning of the year. I am so pumped to have him on the show. One of my favorite people on Twitter, in the fantasy community. This guy is one of the nicest people you will come across. He's extremely charitable, always putting out positive vibes, and he's a great analyst. I'm so excited, so proud to be able to say that he is part of our brand at Yards Per Fantasy. He inspired our We Care charity page that we have on yardsperfantasy.com because he's just so charitable, so giving, so friendly, so positive. I love Spencer. So excited he's our first guest. Let's get to it. Spencer, what's up, man? Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, where the people can find you, where all your work's at, what you're up to. Let's go.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's RB1. You can call me Spence. I'm still working with Yards Per, obviously. This is an awesome website, and Alex is awesome. And then I got the fantasy newsroom where me, Matt, and Ryan all talk about whatever we got going on in the fantasy community, and then we usually have an awesome guest on, so be on the lookout for those.
Awesome, man. I do love the fantasy newsroom show. I've been able to catch a few episodes. You guys do a great job. But we all know about your love of Jonathan Taylor. Tell me about that. Where do you rank him, and what do you expect from him this year?
Yeah, so as you all know, I'm probably one of the biggest JT fans out there. Maybe not the biggest, but I like to proclaim that at least. And for this year, I mean, I got him ranked first overall. If I see him in a draft, whether it's redraft, best ball, dynasty, it doesn't matter. I'm taking JT RB1, and I just think that's the easiest way to do it. He's got the best strength of schedule out of the top tier running backs this year. He's super talented. He's the most talented youngest player in my opinion, and it's just going to be easy for him to score a lot of fantasy points this year.
JT RB1? Wow. Although I guess I shouldn't be surprised since that's literally your Twitter handle. I can't quite get there. He's my RB8 in redraft, but I am with you in Dynasty. He's my RB1. There's just a little bit of uncertainty about what his involvement in the passing game is going to be this year with Hines. He was number 3 in running back targets last year, so I'm a little bit concerned about that. And dump off Charlie, Phillip Rivers. He's gone. But I love Jonathan Taylor. Don't get me wrong. I do love Jonathan Taylor. You recently came to your senses and finally put Justin Herbert over Joe Burrow where he belongs. Proud of you. But what went into making that change, and what do you expect from these guys in 2021?
Yeah, so I put a lot of controversial tweets out there. I remember a few months ago I put out Hurts over Tua, and that blew up, ended up hitting the NFL community, and that got really wild. But I ended up saying Burrow over Herbert earlier last month, and that was definitely controversial. The biggest thing I had in that respect was that I just felt like Zach Taylor was going to throw the football a lot this year, and I still do. But what I started to look into more, and the reason I ended up changing my mind, is because I think that his throws, although they'll be plentiful and probably more than Justin Herbert, I'm not sure they're going to be as valuable, whether there's going to be as much touchdowns or yards gained on those attempts. So that's the biggest factor for that. Right now I have Herbert at 7 for the year, and then I have Burrow at around 10. I ended up pushing him back quite a bit because I started to look into Zach Taylor's offense and how they've performed recently, and it's just not exactly what I was looking for.
So glad he made the change, man. It was the right move. And this is coming from a guy who loves Joe Burrow and that whole Bengals offense. I actually made a TikTok on the Bengals offense and Joe Burrow recently. Go check that out on TikTok, _JohnsonFF. They're one of the offenses I'm really targeting this year. It's the Bengals, it's the Cowboys, it's the Rams. But what Herbert did last year, we just can't deny what Herbert did last year. And I think they're going to be even better this year. Can't quite put Burrow over Herbert yet. But I do like where your head's at. I do love Burrow. Glad you made the change. I think we both love both of these guys. I'm excited to see what they both do. Who is overvalued or overhyped right now?
So for me, the biggest overhyped player right now has to be driven completely by the fantasy community on Twitter, in my opinion. Cam Akers. At the end of last season in January, his ADP was very solid. Like, I would take him at that ADP. I believe it was around 18 or 20. And for some reason, as the months went on in the offseason, he just continued to have his ADP rise, and nothing really changed. I mean, I'm sure Markham Brown leaving may have done something for some people, but to me, he's just a volume-driven running back. He's not the most efficient. He's not seeing a lot of targets, and I don't think he's going to see too many targets. So I think he's completely volume-driven. He could definitely live up to those expectations, but he's being drafted at his ceiling right now, and I just think that's too much for me. So that's why I got to call it most overhyped right now, the most overvalued.
Spence, you're going to come on my show and disparage Cam Akers? Oh, no, I won't have that. Come on, man. I feel like I'm the one driving that hype train on Cam Akers. I have him at RB5, and I've gotten a lot of hate for that. I understand. I do get your perspective on it for sure. But Cam Akers, are you kidding me? I did just take him in the second round of the Scott Fish Bowl and kind of regretted it a little bit. I feel like that was a reach. I think I could have gotten him in the third round and kind of set up a better quarterback situation for myself. Take that quarterback in the second. Hope that Akers is still there for me in the third. I think he would have been, looking at a lot of other people's drafts. So there's a little regret there. But I'll let my TikTok on Cam Akers do the talking. I know it's early, but we are above consensus on Cam Akers in the yardsperfantasy.com preseason rankings. Why are we so high on Akers? Well, first, we know the Rams got a massive offense upgrade thanks to the addition of Matthew Stafford. That means a more efficient offense. Akers was the lead dog in the Rams backfield in week 1 last year, but unfortunately he got hurt. That really killed this season until about week 13. From that point, he averaged 109 yards from scrimmage over the last 4 games. And in the divisional round playoff game against the Packers, Akers played on 96% of the snaps. We can expect to see that type of role from Akers in 2021. We know he can be a 3-down back. He did it at Florida State, where he had a 12.3% target share in his final season. He's going to be on the field a ton, and he has the real upside to be the RB1. The RB1. All right. Enough about Akers. Who is one player outside the first 5 rounds this year you have to get in every single draft?
So yeah, one of the players that I'm looking to grab in the later rounds, that in every single draft I'm in, is James Conner. I think that he's being super underrated right now. He has been able to perform as a workhorse back before, and for some reason people are looking at Chase Edmonds to be that lead workhorse back in Arizona, and I'm just not seeing it. I will say Chase Edmonds, been very efficient with his touches, but he's had the touches of a 3rd-down back. So it's easier to be efficient with those kind of touches. But I've never seen him be able to handle the workload. Even when Kenyon Drake went down, you saw him struggle with a lot of touches. So I'm not convinced that Chase Edmonds is going to be the guy, and I'm trying to get James Conner everywhere I can.
That's right. Conner is one of these guys that you know is going to get some work. Now, I personally do think Chase Edmonds is the back to own in Arizona. But there is absolutely opportunity there for Conner to get early down work, goal line carries, in an offense that's going to run the ball, that's going to run a lot of plays, and score a lot of points. The Cardinals averaged 30 run plays a game last year, which was the 6th most in the league. I think a lot of people are overlooking James Conner. Outside of fantasy football, what is something we don't know about you, or something that you're really passionate about?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, I'm active duty Air Force, and that obviously plays a big part of my life. Makes it sometimes a struggle to be able to put out content and stay in tune with the community, but the actual biggest passion I have outside of the fantasy community isn't my job necessarily. It's actually I don't know if you want to call it philanthropy or whatever you want to call it, but I'm really big on trying to promote charities. No Kid Hungry is an amazing one. JT's My Cause, My Cleats last year. And I try to just push stuff out that will create engagement for that. So for my Scott Fishbowl donation, I was able to donate, I think, around $500. And it was all based on retweets from people in the community and the people who voted in the polls. And I was able to give money away to 4 different charities according to what the fantasy community thought it should be given to. So that was really awesome, and I hope to be able to continue to do things like that in the future.
And that's why I love you, man. You're so giving, you're so inspirational. Keep up the great work, and thank you for your service. And that's the show. Thanks for coming on, Spence. Follow Spence on Twitter at JTRB1. Check out the Fantasy Newsroom podcast. Find his work at yardsperfantasy.com. Let's get out of here. There's a little bit of uncertainty. There's just a little bit of uncertainty about his involvement in the past game. The Cardinals averaged about 30. The Cardinals, outside of fantasy football, what is something? And that's the show. And that's the show. And that's the show. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here.